troubles me to have to make another video on this theme. I'm going to ratchet it up a bit, and those who are the subject of this video should consider this a warning. Now, just to set the record straight, I am a progressive, liberal, non-white, Second Amendment, Constitution-loving American citizen. Kind of in the same vein as a YouTube channel, Yankee Marshall, who I like to watch his stuff a lot, especially when he talks about his short penis. Gotcha. We both live in the Northwest, he in Washington, Oregon, and I in Idaho, if you can't tell by my hat. Some things have happened recently too close together, and they involve violent reactions against free speech in the public square by those who profess to call themselves progressives and liberals and believe that they have a right to prevent people from saying things in the public square that they disagree with and use any means necessary. As a matter of fact, there's a group called By Any Means Necessary, or BAMN. Then there is AntiFa, or anti-fascist. I don't think they have a clue on what that means. My point is this, and it goes to the first incident, and that is the attack on the MAX train. MAX is the public transportation in Portland, Oregon, where three men tried to intervene with a now known white supremacist who was pretty much being a dick and verbally abusing two teenage girls, one Muslim and one black, on the train. These three gentlemen, one first tried to get up and intervene with this guy, and the guy who was mouthing off told him to back off. Then there was some pushing, I guess, and then two other guys stood up, and now you had three guys move on the one guy, who proceeded to produce a knife and kill two of them very quickly. He obviously knew how to use a blade and almost killed the third. He was very, very lucky. My point there is, I think, and this is what I wish, because I think people who speak vile things in public are just dicks, but he was not physically hurting these two young girls. And what actually happened was you had a 3-on-1 confrontation, 3 males against 1 male, and in the scheme of things, that's a disparity of force, and the single person gets to defend themselves with deadly force because of that. The ability, the opportunity, and jeopardy or imminence was there, and if it was me, I'd have pulled a gun and shot the 3 guys. And this guy didn't have a gun, he had a knife, and he proceeded to defend himself. Regardless of what he was saying, these 3 guys made the mistake of double teaming on somebody in closed quarters, very close quarters. Were there other options? Probably. I wasn't there. My point is that there is a feeling among liberals and progressives that somehow you have the right to interfere in someone else's business. Yes, what he was saying was bad, but that doesn't rise to the level where you have to go and put hands on somebody, especially if it's 3-to-1. Okay, but there is this mood among liberal progressives that is surprising to me, because in my mind, I associate violent attacks like that to white supremacists. I mean, that's how I was raised. Those are the bad guys. Wear the sheets, go hang people in the middle of the night, use violence. Well, they're apparently not doing that. So that's the first instance. Now, what happens to the guy? Will he be? He's been charged with murder and all that. Who knows how it's going to come out? My point is that you cannot make aggressive moves on someone because they are speaking something you don't like. Because in many places, you'll end up taking a dirt nap. Now let's fast forward to this past week, where there have been what they call the Trump free speech events, where some of these people get up. Now, I'm not a Trump fan. I think the guy's a dick. I think he's more of a dick now than he was before. However, people get to go in the public square, they get a permit, they get to say what they want to say, as long as they're not inciting the riot, slander, libel, all the normal suspects, right? They can say racist things if they want. This is not Europe. This is America. And if you don't like what they have to say, what are your choices? You can keep on walking. You don't have to stop and listen. You can counter protest. That means you can stand on the other side of the street and yell and scream at them. Sure, you can use foghorns and you can try to outpower the noise. What you cannot do is attack them. You can't do that. It doesn't matter how passionately you feel about that. You cannot attack either person because of what they're saying, right? So you had the free speech events that took place around the country in various cities, and what you saw, and especially in Portland, was the police. I'm talking about an overwhelming amount of police this time they did the right thing. They stood between the two groups. Now, the white supremacist guys, they were cool. Why? Because most of them were armed. Legally, non-felons with firearms. Understand, these aren't criminals with illegal guns. These are American citizens with the right to carry, open or concealed, depending on the place, not criminals, non-felons, right? The other guys, the AntiFa, by any means necessary, they're cowards, right? Because they dress in black and they cover their faces and they come with sticks and shields and they come with the intent of using violence, right? And frankly, the police said, we're not going to have any of that. The police stood in the breach, as they should. They were cranky, but the Antifa guys and the by any means necessary guys got mad at the cops and then started throwing stuff at the cops, bottles and the normal thing, and then call the cops the bad guys. No, they should have been kissing their feet because the cops kept them from getting killed. Because as these people managed to break through the line of the cops and get to the guys that were speaking, I can tell you with almost certainty that there would have been a lot of dead people, and there would not have been the white supremacists and the speakers or the Trump free speech folks. Why? Because most of the Antifa people are in fact criminals. They cannot have a firearm. They're usually too young to have a concealed carry permit. You feel where I'm going with this? Which is why they show up with sticks and bats and stuff. Now, let's assume that they were, that a lot of them were legally able to carry firearms. The cops couldn't take them away from them. Now you have two armed camps. What happens if the Antifa, by any means necessary, by any means if they had guns they would use them, right? And then they bust through the cop lines. Now there's going to be a firefight, right? That's in Oregon, Oregon, Portland, Oregon. Not necessarily the most gun-friendly city in Oregon, but the Antifa people picked the wrong place. And most of them got arrested And the amount of weapons that the police picked up were theirs, not the speakers. So where I'm going with this, which concerns me, is that there is a violent contingent on the left that is going to lose. They're going to lose the messaging, because at some point they're going to pull on Superman's cape. They're going to try to go up against armed people who are visibly armed, and they're not going to come out of this well. And then yesterday there was the anti-sharia movement around the country. It wasn't very well attended by anti-sharia people, but the AntiFa folks and the Muslim supporters and all those showed up in equally small numbers to counter-protest. Counter-protest is good, but in many places where these were held, there were legally armed people in the anti-sharia group. There is a reason that you don't have legally armed people in the AntiFa and the by any means necessary group. I'll leave that to your own thinking. So this was just a bit of a ramble, but I am concerned. The people that I don't like their rhetoric, white supremacists, people who feel that are pure racists, they have the podium, right? There are people that feel that this country should be white again. That's never going to happen, and I don't agree with that, right? And if they want to go say that crap, fine. I'm just not going to listen. I'm not going to pay money to go see it. I'm not going to go. I might go counter-protest. But if I counter-protest, I'm going to be visibly armed. Everybody's going to know it, right? But I'm not going to pull a gun out and point it at somebody, right? Or wave a stick and say, I'm coming after you. The left is losing, they're losing the high ground by doing this. And I've said this before. They are bastardizing Malcolm X by any means necessary phrase. He was talking about something that is far more important back then than what these little young yahoos are talking about today. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Shout out to Yankee Marshall. Thanks for the inspiration. And as always, thanks for watching. Carry on.